Well, good morning, everybody. Diesel these geckos here again. Just wanted to stop in and say hello to everybody. Have my morning coffee. Was in here feeding some geckos, cleaning out some cages, take all my female bins out and replaced all the paper towels, all the food bowls, all of the sphagnum moss, everything. So, just wanted to do a video on the infamous, I guess, leucistic crested gecko that, you know, a lot of the new pet owners or beginner pet owners, I guess a lot of veterans too, don't have them yet. Just waiting a little while before they get into them. I've had them for a while. I have a collection of my own that I work with, and I got an email or message the other day, just a lady that was asking questions on a Facebook message, which we obviously all know we can't really stand Facebook, but I have created my own Facebook newbies group, so that way people can come there and get real information. There aren't all these rules where you have to recommend a giant 18 by 18 24 crested gecko enclosure, which obviously we all know is completely wrong. It's too big, but we'll save that for a different day. So I'm gonna try and keep it very basic like I do with all of my videos and all of my educational stuff. I want to make it to where kids can actually watch these, follow along, see kind of pictures of awesome geckos, and, you know, just feel free to ask a question. So once again, Diesel these geckos, here we go. I am on Instagram, Facebook. You can message me, follow along on my YouTube videos if you like. These will be unedited right now. I'm not really gonna get into the edited thing because I want people to be able to sit down with a piece of paper or a marker, whatever they wanna do, and they can follow along without having to pause the video over and over again, which I've had to do tons of times. So as we all know, here I got this clear one here so you can see nice little, if there's no, whatever you want to call it, glare, leucistic, or super fire is what they call them. So there you go, look at that, pretty cool. I like the blue, but as you can see, there's not much pattern on it. And everyone says, oh, they all look the same. Trust me, they do not. So everyone has their own little characteristics, which I love. I think you can see that to an extent, but let's just do this so you can see them. This is number 15 if you want to reference the number. Check him out. So cool. You can literally see right through him. Look at his eyeballs, bright blue. But he's got more yellow on his neck, on his scales and all that, so pretty neat looking. That's one of them. So these are just some that you guys can look at before we get into the education part of it. This is number 14. This guy's a little bit more jumpy, as you can see. Look at that. But check it out, different scales, whole different look. Look at his head. A little bit different. So every one of them is going to be a little different. So just a quick take a peek at him really quick. Let me hurry up, try and get this guy back in here so we can get moving. Here's another one. Pretty cool looking. Look at that. Bunch of color on that. You can see through their bellies. Look at that, pretty neat. Crazy. But I mean, I feel like everyone has questions about these, and I do know there are plenty of videos out there explained on how they work, how you can get them, but I don't think that a lot of people or newbies out there or new people know where to go. So again, this is strictly for new people. So all you veterans out there, you don't have to follow along. Not for sale for this one at all. Definitely not. But check big. She's huge right now. Not sure if she's got eggs in her belly. I don't think so right now. Maybe. Look at it, you can see right through her. So cool. But she's very, very big. She probably smells the boys on me, other girls, that kind of stuff. And then I like this one a lot. This one's one of my favorites too. Pretty cool. Alrighty, but here you go. Okay, so when it comes to these animals, a lot of people are like, well, how do you get them? Do you have to have a certain kind and all that? How do you know if you have the gene? Well, you have to trust the person you're buying them from if you don't have one that's a visual. So if you want to keep it simple and you want to think about breeding them or whatever, if you have an animal, you have to look at it like there's two pieces to every puzzle. So every gecko is going to be able to send off to the other gecko or to their babies. They're going to be able to pass one piece of the puzzle, and there's only two pieces. So let's say we use this one as a super and it is visually seen. So we'll use capital L for this gecko. So this is the one part of the gene. This is two parts of the gene. Got it? So this gecko can only pass off one of these. But if you check it out, they're both the same. So this gecko is always going to pass off that. But let's say you have one of your normal geckos around the house, you're just getting into it, and you're like, oh, I want to create some of these. And you're thinking that this gecko itself can produce a copy of itself. So let's say you have another gecko that doesn't have this, and you're like, well, I don't have a leucistic, or I don't have anything that has a part leucistic in it, but I could only get one of these. So let's say we use these two little L's, because as I said before, each gecko has two pieces. So this gecko, which we're gonna say is a normal, there are all kinds of normals. There, Harlequin normals. There's, crested geckos that are just Harlequins. There's, let's say, a Dalmatian, whatever it might be. Just it's not the leucistic or doesn't carry the leucistic. So this animal number 2, is going to be able to pass off this or this. Well, guess what? They're both the same. So small L. So when you put these two together, we have to look at it like, okay, so parent 1, we're going to put over here. So this is parent 1, this is parent 2. So big L and a small L. So let's put this first parent over here on the left side. And then we'll put this other parent right here on the top. So when you breed, the only outcome, because they can only pass on one, is this with this. Because you have to have 2 of them to make an animal. And as you can see, this up here, the 2 L's, is when you see this leucistic animal we have that we're talking about. So look at this. Is that a leucistic? No. So you're not going to be able to produce visually that super fire is what it's called, but you're not going to be able to produce that leucistic. But if you'll notice, it does have one copy of that large L. So this animal is going to carry that gene. So when you ask, can I create them with one animal? You can, but you cannot create them with one season of breeding. So now this animal, you add to your collection or however many animals they are, they're all going to have one copy of the leucistic, and they're going to be called fires. So it takes 2 fires to make this leucistic. So every single animal you produce, which is actually kind of cool, with one of these supers is going to be 100% carrying the gene, and it's just not going to visually show as a super, but it will be a fire. So you'll need 2 of these to make that fire gene. Hopefully that makes sense. So if you have 1 of them to a normal, this is all you can do right here. That is literally the only thing you can produce. Every single animal you produce is gonna look like that. Which, I mean, honestly, some people are like, that's cool, because now I know that every single animal I have is that. There's no guessing, there's no 50% chance, there's no 100% het chance between, I don't know how to word that, but in general, no matter what, you know 100% what your outcomes are gonna be. So it's pretty cool. So check this out. Let's say you trust the person you're buying from. So let's say you know somebody has these supers like I do, and you know they're breeding them to normals or whatever it might be. And just like I showed you, you have this one plus this one. So you got 1 of those. That's the second gene. So look at that. This animal we're talking about, which I have, is only going to pass on the giant L, which is visual piece. This animal, which we just created, has 1 copy. So this is what we call a fire. It takes 2 fires to make a super. But with every animal you do, you have to look at it like each animal has 2 copies of each gene, or 2 copies of it to make the gene. So you've got piece number 1, piece number 2. Both of these are different now, aren't they? So this animal, your fire, can pass on this gene, or this piece of the gene. It's called an allele or a gamete, whatever you want to call it. And it can also pass on that. So if you look, you've got 2 pieces. Your super is only going to pass on that. Your fire is going to pass on both. So let's look at it like this. Put your super over here, because no matter what, it's going to pass that on. But now you have these. So you got to put 1 here and 1 here. So now you have different outcomes. So this combined, look what you get. You have a super. And then check this one out. You have a fire, which is back up here. So now you have 2 outcomes instead of just the 1 outcome. Whereas you breed a super to all your normals, you're gonna get all fires. But now, if you take your super and breed it to one that is a fire that carries 1 copy, now you get 50% of your supers, and 50% are going to be the fires, which you can make more supers with. And this is true with any gene that carries or has a super form of it. So when you have your empty backs, you can have what we call the het empty back, which is only 1 copy of it. And then you've got the homozygous empty back, which is the super form, but we just call them empty backs. It's just terminology in the gecko world and reptile world. You'll learn as a new person, and it is definitely interesting, and it gets very addicting. So be ready for that. So hopefully I'm going slow enough to where people can follow along. So we've gotten, and we went through the super form, which is I'm starting at the top because that's where the questions come from. And then we go down to the others. So we went super to a normal, which shows you get all of your hets or your fires, which is the 1 copy. And then you've got your super to your fire. So 2 copies, 1 copy. What happens if, let's say you have unlimited funds, which none of us have, but here you go. The question that came to me was, do I have to have these to make them? Do I have to have 2 of them? This is weird. Well, let's say your second animal has, here's your 1, there's your 2. So each animal, like we said, has 2 pieces of the puzzle. But if you'll notice, they're both the same, just like this one. So this animal can only pass on that big L. So if you got mom over here, dad over here, guess what? There really isn't any other option. So when you breed these two animals together and you have two of the supers, guess what you produce? 100% of these super examples of that gene, which means visually you can see it no matter what. There's no question about it. When that egg hatches, no matter what, that is what you're going to get. But when these things are $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, whatever it might be, when you're trying to get one to breed because you're going to try to find a ready to breed adult, or an almost ready to breed, so you don't have to wait so long, because otherwise you're waiting 2 and 3 years for them to get old enough to even be healthy and appropriate to breed. You don't want to breed these too small. Then you got these tiny ones that never grow anymore, and then the offspring are just, you know, the percentage of having huge, healthy, growing and strong animals is pretty low, and you don't want to do that to the hobby. So make sure you wait a long time before breeding them. Make sure they are of weight. No, I'm not saying you have to wait till they lay dud eggs, none of that stuff, but just don't rapidly grow them, feeding them a ton of food, force feeding them, hand feeding them every single day just to rush the process. Take your time, enjoy the animal as it grows, and then time flies. All of a sudden, you've got this animal that you're ready to breed, and you're like, wow. And just enjoy it. You know, don't worry about everybody else. Don't worry about having tons of animals so you can sell them, that kind of stuff. Don't worry about all that. So let's say, here's another example. Let's say you don't have any supers and you just want to, you know, get into it and have some fun like a lot of us do, and start off with, you know, just fires. But like I said before, you have to trust the person you're buying from. You have to make sure that they are actually one copy of the gene animals, which are the fires, or het leucistic, whatever you want to call them. So let's say we have a fire, so which will be one copy of the gene. Got it? And let's say we have another fire. Let's say you only want to get 2 of these. So you want to get your 2 fires, your 2 hets, het leucistics. You've got these 2 copies. You got 1 here, 2 here, 1 from this animal, 2 from this animal. So you got more options or more outcomes. This animal is going to pass on either this gene or this allele, and then this animal can pass on either one of these. Remember, each animal can only pass one of them when we're talking about a single gene. You can obviously do more. So if this was a leucistic with an xanthic with it, or with a lily white with it, you can add that on here, but then your outcomes become very confusing and very large. So right now I'm just going to keep it very simple so that people can follow along. So if you're just listening, then one animal has a big L and a small animal, or a small L. The other animal has a big L and a small L. Each of those animals have the capability of passing on that big L or that small L. So when you're drawing your Punnet square or your outcome, your box, whatever you want to do, whatever makes it easier for you, you've got the one parent over here with his big L, small L, and then other animal can pass on big L and also small L. So if you'll notice, it's a little bit more complicated, but if you go slow and do this a few times and use this to kind of transfer to all of your other incomplete dominant style genes, you can do this for anything. So this animal, very easy, just bring them all down. So here's your 2 copies. Here's your 2 copies. Here's your 2 copies. And then here is your 2 copies. So you've got different outcomes. And if you'll look, we've got 1 super. So we got 1 of those out of the 4. You've got 2 fires, which both carry the gene. There you go. And then if you look at this one, does not have anything on it. So this is going to be a normal. Meaning it's just doesn't carry any copy of that leucistic gene, is all that means. Every gecko has its own look to it. So this gecko could be something like what we call an oddball, and people love the way those things look. It's not about breeding for everybody. It's just, this is an awesome animal for kids to have and start getting into the reptile hobby. It's an amazing introduction style animal for crested geckos, which is pretty slick to me. My daughter loves them. I mean, she's gotten to the point where she'll carry dubia roaches for feeding, and she loves the animals. Like, most kids are not gonna hold a bug at all. So hopefully this makes sense to you guys. We have done the super, we've done the normals, we've done the super to normal. I think that's pretty much all of them. We've done the super to the super to show you that. But what if we did, well, here's another one. Let's say we did, because some people might only be able to start off with one of the fires right now. Let's say you did a fire and then a normal. So no copies of it. So 1, 2, there's the two possibilities. Well, they're both the same. So if you bring only one of them down, that's all that one can do. So this one's got 2. This one's only got that same one that drops down. So let's start off with the only one copy. So it goes right here. So 1 copy, that's it. That's the only thing it's gonna pass on. But this animal can pass on this big L and the small L. So this is where it might take a little bit longer for someone to create what they want. But again, it's fun. So if you're following along, big L, small L, possibilities from one animal, then the other animal can only pass on the small L, because that's all it carries is both small L's, which means doesn't have the leucistic gene, and it also doesn't show anything visually. And then this would show you what you're going to get out of that animal. So on this one, possibilities are big L, small L, and then over here, normals. So on this one, 50% of them are going to be fires, because as you can see, it carries 1 copy of it. So you got 50% chance to getting a fire out of that pairing. Even if you can only get a fire and you only have a normal, you will be able to produce and get other fires. This one is a normal, so there's nothing to it. So 50% of those are going to be normal animals. All this means are it's a chance to getting those animals. Doesn't mean it's guaranteed that you're going to get this animal out of it. It just means all of these percentages that you guys see when somebody says 50% het exanthic, or 50% het whatever, 50% or 66%. Those are just chances. It just means out of that clutch, or out of 10 eggs, I would say, just do a 10, number 10. Out of 10 of them, 66% chance that one of them is going to have that gene, or a 50% chance that they're going to have that gene. In this case, you only have 2 outcomes. So no matter what, 50% of them will be fires and 50% of them will be normals. So it's a lot easier when you're using these incomplete dominant genes, because it's a more powerful gene and it shows visually on these. So hopefully that makes sense. If you have any questions, feel free to message me. But I wanted to let everybody kind of see that had asked me, that were basic stuff and kind of new into it and love these animals, to see kind of how it works and how we as breeders try to determine what we want to make or what the outcomes could be by pairing 2 animals. So there you go. Leucistic Crested Gecko, and I love these. Stay tuned for other creations, because leucistics being paired with exanthics, Dalmatians, high whites, cappuccinos, sables. It's just, it's endless. So remember, follow me, Diesel These Geckos, Instagram, Facebook, Palm Street as well, where I'll be doing kind of just showing people animals as they request them. Here you go. Take a look, follow me, message me, ask some questions. I am also a Vital Meal distributor. Take a look. Everything you need. I also have Repashy, and hopefully I will be getting Origin eventually from AJ, and I will start doing that and feeding my animals that and see how they respond. Hope you guys have a great day. And again, just give me a question or send me an email if you have questions. And hopefully this was a slow enough video for everyone to follow along. And I appreciate you. Take it easy.